Hello, I'm Steven,
And I'm Aaron.
and we've just seen Keeper, new film that's out in theaters right now, starring Tatiana Maslany, Ross of Sutherland, and it is directed by Osgood Perkins. So, believe it or not, I was actually somewhat intrigued by this movie. The trailers were completely unambiguous about the fact that this movie has monsters in it. The trailers showcased the monsters all over the place, and I was intrigued by the practical effects and the prosthetic makeup, and I was like, this could be interesting. I'll go see it. Osgood Perkins has been 0 for 3 for me so far, but I'll always give a director a chance to redeem his or herself in my eyes. So you and I went to see this, and I'm hoping for the best, and within 20 minutes, any hope of this movie being good was completely dashed into oblivion, and it only got worse. This is 0 for 4 now. I hated this movie. I found it boring as shit, uninspired. You know what this thing was? This was an ending with a movie attached to it. Osgood Perkins had an idea for an ending, did not know how to get there, and just worked backwards from it.
Yeah, that was kind of my exact read on it as well. The thing about this movie is that when it introduces its characters and the setup to you, your mind immediately goes to one specific reveal, twist, outcome. And the movie spends the rest of its time trying to make you think that it's going to be about something else. Maybe something else is going on until the last 15 or so minutes. It's like, oh no, it was the thing I thought it was going to be the entire time. And the climax is really where you get all the crazy visuals, the outlandish stuff, the big twists and turns, the designs for the monsters, as you put it.
Yeah, all the creativity, all the intriguing elements happen in the last 20 minutes, maybe less.
Yeah, I thought about The Witch a lot while watching this because The Witch has a pretty show-stopping finale. But the thing that movie does is that it leaves you little breadcrumbs to follow throughout to keep you on your toes and guessing what's going on here, what's happening to this family, what's happening to these people. And then when you finally get everything resolved in the end, you're like, okay, everything makes sense, I understand, it's all connected together very well. Here, it's just nothing that we watched for 90% of this movie really had much to do with what the ending ended up being.
Plus, The Witch, the stakes or whatever are always seem to be getting higher and higher and higher. This, it's just 90% of this movie is just wandering around a cabin. Couple goes to a cabin, woman eats some cake, guy has to go off to attend surgery because he's a doctor. Mm-hmm. Then she sees shit and stuff gets weird. And then it's just a bunch of dicking around a cabin for 90% of the movie until the big thing happens in the final 20 minutes.
And that by itself isn't necessarily such a bad thing.
No! If you can find a way to make her wandering around the cabin on the edge of your seat intriguing, one of my favorite horror movies the last 10 years is Men, and not a whole lot happens plot-wise in that.
I thought a lot about that movie too, because it is this woman in a place that she doesn't really understand, and then all kind of crazy stuff starts happening, and she starts to kind of question her own sanity and reality. Is any of this actually going on? What's wrong?
There were two movies I thought of all throughout this. Both movies I love. Men and Lamb. Both movies about female characters as the protagonist. They're isolated in this one location for most of the movie, and in the case of Lamb, it's a couple. But also, in Lamb, kind of like this movie, there's this asshole cousin character who comes into the story, and Lamb, that character goes somewhere interesting. Here, the asshole cousin is just the asshole cousin, and in the end, the payoff is so disappointing.
Yeah, but you could make this simple concept work. The thing that makes this so hard to watch is just the way these characters are written.
Yes.
And the awful dialogue that they have to say.
This is some of the worst dialogue I've heard in a long-ass time.
They don't feel like human beings. I know we're supposed to be questioning whether or not the boyfriend character is actually a good person, but when the dialogue between them is so awkward and so unrealistic and so stilted, you can see some of the twists and turns coming a mile away, because this is not how people who supposedly like each other talk to each other or behave with one another. It's such an awkward relationship.
Yeah, the premise is flawed right from the start. I never bought them as a couple.
No, not at all. Not for 1 second.
I was like, why does she like this guy? He's totally uncharismatic and dull, and his kindness doesn't really read as that.
Yeah, he very much doesn't feel like a sincere kind of person. This is kind of where I thought maybe the movie was going, and I kind of started to get a little interested. It's like when he leaves and she's in the cabin by herself, she starts experiencing things and seeing things, and crazy stuff starts happening to her. I was like, okay, is Osgood Perkins trying to make a movie about somebody being in situations and environments that are completely foreign and kind of frightening to them, even if there's really no reason to be scared of something? Because that's kind of a relatable idea. I feel like you or I have been in those situations where we're just in a place that we don't recognize or we're not comfortable in, and then your brain starts to kind of think of all kind of things that could go wrong, or things you saw that you thought you saw.
And I didn't love this movie, but a movie that did that pretty well was Skinamarink.
Yes, and that was the other movie I was gonna bring up. Is like if they were going for something more existential when it comes to like the terror, something just being in your head. Skinamarink is very much about what is it like for a small child who is awake in the middle of the night, and everything in the house is scary. Every noise, you think there's something around the corner, or you think you see something in the shadows in the corner of the wall.
Yeah, the slightest creak of the floorboard sends a chill down your spine.
Yeah, this movie does that a little bit, where she's just kind of in the house and you'll hear a creak or a noise or a door open or close, and she's kind of like freaking out because she's in this unrecognizable space. She's in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and she's used to city life, so this is totally new territory for her.
I don't think I was even able to appreciate that. The movie had just beaten me down by the time that stuff rolled around. Although I will say there's two actors in the movie, Tatiana Maslany and Rossif Sutherland. I'll get this right out the way. Tatiana Maslany, innocent. Everyone else, guilty!
She comes away from this completely unscathed.
She's carrying this entire production on her shoulders.
She is acting her ass off in this movie. She's like legitimately kind of amazing in this.
Yeah, and there comes a point when she's pretty much the only performer in the film.
And it's been a while since I've seen an actress portray terror like this in a movie that actually feels like real and legitimate. There comes a time later in the movie when things are kind of being revealed to her and she has to react to the situation she's in now that she knows exactly what's going on. And she's performing the hell out of this scene. And it feels really real. But everybody around her is kind of a cartoon character.
Yeah, the boyfriend character, terrible performance.
He's so dry, so wooden, so bland and boring.
And it's like every word out of his mouth feels like it's like punctuated with this, like he can't get my breath.
I don't know if this was like a stylistic choice, but it almost felt like either all of his dialogue was redubbed by the same actor, but then also turned way down in the mix. Because there's times where it felt like he was like muffled. You had to really listen to him, but everybody else in the movie was like crystal clear, like no problems whatsoever. It's like, did they do this to this guy on purpose?
It's like he's talking through a Darth Vader mask.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. But yeah, the things they have him say and do, not interesting, bad dialogue. The cousin character is even worse, because this is like some of the stuff that I don't think Osgood Perkins is very good at, and that's humor.
I love drugs. I love sex.
Yeah, I mean, that's his character.
That's it. That's all.
He's the guy who brings home the supermodels, and he doesn't even know what their names are because he's hopped up on coke and all kind of other drugs, and he doesn't care just because he's getting laid for the night.
She loves her Molly.
Yeah, just Osgood Perkins, I don't think he wrote this, but for whatever reason, this seems to be a problem in a few of his movies. There's like this weird attempt at cringe humor and cringe dialogue sometimes, but I don't think he's good at doing it.
No. Hell no.
Again, it just makes the characters feel cartoonish and unrealistic.
And I hated the monkey, but at least there was an excuse. That movie was a comedy.
Well, I also felt like the monkey was more cohesive. Like, it actually felt like he was trying to explore something. It's like the central concept was death and how cruel and just out of nowhere it can feel, and how it can strike at any moment, and how sometimes that can be funny in exactly how death manifests itself. Here, I don't feel like there's really a central idea at all. It's like you said, he had the climax of the movie where he came up with a whole bunch of wacky, crazy shit that happened, and then, admittedly, some pretty satisfying things happen in the finale.
Yeah.
But the journey getting there is so lifeless, so bland, so boring, so full of nothing, and filled with some of the worst dialogue in any of his movies. Maybe the worst dialogue in any of his movies. I guess I'll talk about the movies of his that I have seen. I liked Long Legs. I thought it was actually pretty good. Again, very cohesive, and it felt like by the time you got to the finale, enough of the pieces were there where you're like, okay, I got it. Monkey, I liked that movie way, way less. There's some ideas I liked that he was going for, but that movie overstayed its welcome. This was just terrible.
Yeah. I despised Gretel and Hansel. I
forgot about that one. That I kind of like that movie.
I was mixed on Long Legs, but I think I like it. I definitely like it less than you. Hated the monkey, and I hated this.
Yeah. Hansel and Gretel, visuals and audio, that was a pretty good experience. And I think that kind of carries through to most of these movies. This is a very good looking and good sounding movie. And the production design and the creature design is actually really cool, I'd say.
I like the creature design. I was off put by the cinematography. There are so many shots where there's negative space around the actors.
I felt like that was on purpose. There's specifically a shot when the characters are sitting around a table talking to each other, and there's one shot that's specifically framed where it cuts off the characters' heads and you can't see any of their faces or who's talking.
Maybe he was trying to communicate the idea of isolation visually by putting so much negative space around the characters,
Yeah.
but I felt more often than not it just looked ugly. And
He did a lot of the same stuff in Long Legs. There's a lot of stuff where the central character is framed in the middle of the screen, and then the whole room feels gigantic around her. Kind of to create that kind of feeling again. But yeah, here it doesn't really feel like there's anything driving this or an idea that he's really got nailed down.
this felt as aimless and meandering as Gretel and Hansel did. And, Gretel and Hansel, same thing. The only thing I really took away from that movie was, like, the climax was all right.
Yeah, back to the creatures for a second. That's the stuff that I think he's actually really effective at, because there are a few moments where with these things where they do things or they're able to do things that I would say, never really seen in a movie like this in quite a while. And it's actually kind of unsettling, some of the stuff that you see them do.
Everyone on Letterboxd is, like, making the joke. He did long legs, now here's long neck.
Yeah, I kind of wish that wasn't in the trailer, because I do remember there specifically being one shot where you see this head pop out behind something, and then the neck starts to extend, and I was like, I wish I didn't see that.
That was the shot that sold me on the movie. It reminded me of the Norris thing from The Thing.
Yeah. So those things are pulled off pretty well, and again, there's some really cool design work going on, and there was one instance, I can't say who the character is, but there's a character who are visibly very old, and then they're talking. Did you notice anything like funny with their mouth? Like it looked like the teeth were CG'd for whatever reason?
Yeah, something looked off about that. Something was eliciting that uncanny valley thing.
I feel like everything was mostly real, but for some reason it's like they slapped this picture of like rotten teeth inside the mouth and they didn't really move very much. So it looked like a real head with a CG inside of a mouth. Very, very strange.
Yeah.
But other than that, I felt like the visuals and the effects and the creatures held up pretty well. especially since a lot of it is done in shadow and darkness. This movie is pretty short. It's an hour 39 minutes, but
It felt longer.
because of the nature of it, it felt way longer than it actually is.
I've never walked out of a movie, but this movie tested my patience.
Yeah, we did have a walkout during the movie, but
I don't know if that was because of the movie
Yeah.
or the noisy people sitting next to us.
yeah, unfortunately we got a descriptive audio track from the kind ladies sitting next to us, but I don't think that they were enough of a hindrance to actually ruin the movie experience for us to have negative feelings towards it. I think the movie was just that bad.
Yeah, that's what I would like to believe.
But yeah, we did have one walkout. I think maybe it was probably a combination of things. They were probably bored by it, but then also there's these ladies, chatting it up right in front of them, so they couldn't take it anymore.
So what is your final number grade on a scale of 1 to 10?
I was pretty disappointed by this. I'd give it a 3 out of 10.
0. Oh, that's one more thing, just really quick, is that this felt padded as shit. The characters would overextend the shit out of every conversation because we got to get a 90-minute time limit.
Yeah, that was another problem, was like all the dialogue is circular in nature.
Yeah. Round and around we go.
How many times can we, ask, what's going on? Why is this happening?
It's like watching Popeye, only not good.
Well, so it's like watching Popeye.
We're going to talk about Popeye one day, but not today.
One day.
So, no, I hated it. 0.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I wouldn't recommend watching it.
A keeper, this ain't.
No.